What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here's my fantasy football advice for NFL Week 12. This fantasy football advice is for informational purposes only. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you a sleeper and a stud for each position. And if you stay to the very end after all my picks and after I show you the Draft Dashboard tools, I'll give you my super secret sleeper pick that no one's talking about. Okay, my stud quarterback for Week 12 is Tom Brady from the New England Patriots playing the New York Jets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense. Tom Brady has scored 12, 16, and 17 fantasy points in his last 3 games, averaging 19.4 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets about 2 rush attempts per game, but don't expect any big yard runs or touchdowns from Tom Brady. Those are rare. So you're asking yourself, why would I play Tom Brady? A big reason why is because Tom Brady and the Patriots got embarrassed last week versus the Tennessee Titans. They know it. The media knows it. Everyone who watched that game knows it. Tom Brady rarely has back-to-back poor performances. Look for that embarrassment last week to add fuel to Tom Brady's fire here in Week 12. Okay, now for a low-salary quarterback that may fly under the radar. I like Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks playing the Carolina Panthers, who have the 12th worst defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Russell Wilson has scored 19, 27, and 21 fantasy points in his last 3 games, averaging 19.5 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets about 4 rush attempts per game, and he makes the most of those rush attempts. I love Russell Wilson here in this matchup versus Cam Newton in Week 12. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all our DFS tools for NFL, and the tools for NBA are awesome. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Okay, let's see who we have at running back. My stud running back for Week 12 is Melvin Gordon from the LA Chargers playing the Arizona Cardinals, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, but they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Melvin Gordon has scored 22, 28, and 22 fantasy points in his last 3 games, averaging 27 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets 6.4 targets per game and about 16 rushes per game. That's well over 20 touches per game. It's high volume from a great running back who's playing at home with a fantastic matchup. Okay, let's take a look at a low salary running back that may fly under the radar. I like Matt Breida from the San Francisco 49ers playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are the 2nd worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Matt Breida has scored 31, 6, and 4 fantasy points in his last 3 games, averaging 12.6 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets about 2 targets a game, and 11.3 rushes a game is his average, but he got 17 rushes last game. He got over 20 touches last game. That's what you want to see from him this week. I think he can get there here in Week 12 with a favorable matchup versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My wide receiver stud here in Week 12 is going to be Antonio Brown for the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Denver Broncos, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense. Antonio Brown has scored 26, 22, and 15 fantasy points in his last 3 games, averaging 21.8 fantasy points per game on the season and an average of 10.9 targets. That's almost 11 targets per game. He got 13 targets last game. You can always count on Antonio Brown to get a long touchdown pass. He plays 95% of the snaps. I like Antonio Brown with a pretty decent matchup versus the Denver Broncos here in Week 12. Okay, now for a low salary wide receiver who I think once again will slide under the radar. I like Willie Snead from the Baltimore Ravens playing the Oakland Raiders, who have the 4th worst defense overall and give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Willie Snead has scored 10, 13, and 10 fantasy points in his last 3 games, averaging 10.7 fantasy points per game on the season, almost 8 targets per game. This guy's a high volume wide receiver who can go deep. One long bomb and you're One long bomb and he's hit value. I like this guy every week. I'll continue to play him as long as he's scoring double-digit fantasy points. I love Willie Snead here in Week 12 versus the Oakland Raiders. Okay, let's take a look at the tight end position. My Week 12 tight end stud is George Kittle from the San Francisco 49ers playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are the second worst defense overall and give up the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. George Kittle has scored 17, 24, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games, averaging 15.4 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets an average of 7.1 targets per game. He got 10 targets last game. I love George Kittle here in Week 12. Okay, now for a low salary tight end that may fly under the radar. I like Vance McDonald from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Denver Broncos, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Vance McDonald has scored 12, 14, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games, averaging 10.5 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets about 5 targets per game. He got 6 targets last game, double-digit fantasy points in the past 2 games. Vance McDonald has been low-owned since that huge breakout game he had earlier in the season. I think he's got a great matchup here. He can break tackles and go all the way to the end zone, get you an 80-yard touchdown off of 1 target. I love Vance McDonald here in Week 12. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to DraftDashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. You've unlocked the bonus content. My super secret sleeper pick for Week 12 is Elijah McGuire from the New York Jets playing the New England Patriots, who are the 9th worst defense overall and about middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Elijah McGuire has scored 9 and 10 fantasy points in his last 2 games, averaging 9.2 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets 5.5 targets per game and 6.5 rushes per game. That's 12 touches per game for a minimum salary player. Elijah McGuire playing at home. This is a punt play. You never know what you're going to get with these, but if he can score a touchdown, he's going to crush value and put you in a great position here in Week 12. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for Week 12. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.